Thanks for your company. Bye-bye for now from
Very good morning and welcome to Poklюka for the last day of action of this 8th biathlon round of the World Cup, and we've just joined it in time for the start of the men's mass start. There you see all the favourites lined up on the first grid. We'll go through the numbers in just a moment. Apologies for the late arrival, but the World Championships in Oberstdorf taking priority, of course, and what a race that was, and a victory for France. They could get one here. Raphael Poré wearing the yellow bib as the World Cup leader. Mike, do you fancy his chances?
Yeah, he's coming back. Yesterday he did that a little bit better, and you can see a focus coming back into Poré. But his main rival, there he is, number 3, Bjørndalen is back, driven over from Oberstdorf, and he's gone straight to the front, Bjørndalen.
Yeah, Bjørndalen, disappointing appearance in Oberstdorf. I know he got into the top 11 of the men's 15-kilometre, which is no mean feat, but really he was expecting to be in contention for medals.
He was. That was his aim, to go there and stamp his authority in the cross-country world. 26 seconds off bronze, though, and 11th. It is still good. 11th fastest in the world in that 15-kilometre. I think he can be better if he trained more specifically for the 15-kilometre. This is very different racing when you're stopping or slowing down to shoot. You're carrying the weight of a rifle. A fall, a twist around from the Russian there.
Well, an interesting start. The mass start, by the way, 15 kilometres the distance, 4 shoots, exactly the same as in the pursuit. The first 2 in the prone, the second, the third and fourth in the standing position. And we've only had one mass start so far this year. That took place in Oberhof, in Östersund, I should say. And Raphael Poré really proving himself to be the absolute master there. Rojkov, Sherazov, Sven Fischer, all going well in second, third and fourth. But Poré is the master of this event. 4 World Championship titles in the mass start, and there's something about his psyche that just says, I'm the best.
Indeed, he has total self-belief when he goes head-to-head with anyone. As they come into the range for the first time.
Now, really wintry conditions here in Poklюka for the first time almost this season. And I know the locals enjoying the fact it will extend their ski season for a while. Now, each athlete taking the lane that corresponds to their bib number, and 30 on the start sheet. Poré nearest the camera, then Fischer, Bjørndalen, Gross, the top 4 in the World Cup so far this year. Good start for Bjørndalen, Mike, 4 out of 4, and he gets the 5th one down. He's going to be away first unless Poré is quick with the last shot.
Poré got the last shot. Grice, 5 out of 5 as well.
Vincent Defrain, who's pretty much been the best Frenchman over the last 3 weeks, if we take all the races into account. Another clear shoot for Defrain, and he will be in the top 3 or 4. He's going to be just behind Mickey Grice, I think, who's 5.9 off the leaders. Any major mistakes. I see Ludwig Gredler of Austria, 3 misses in that early stage. He's over a minute behind already. Zhang of China, Mike, has gone clear. Going to be very interesting to watch him today.
Indeed, Zhang is growing in stature all the time, beginning to get his shooting together more regularly, and of course we know his ski speed is brilliant.
So just a quick update after that first shoot. 8.04 the time for Bjørndalen. He's got the lead, back in the lead. Poré on his shoulder, his nemesis chasing him hard. Mickey Grice in third, 5.9 behind Defrain in fourth. Robert making 3 Frenchmen in the top 5 positions in the early stages here. Gross, Fischer, Canard all in the top 10. Rotman, who didn't race in the first mass start of the season, he's in 9th. Andy Bernbacher in 10. Just off your screen at the moment, but only 16-17 seconds separating those top positions. And well, Bjørndalen hasn't done it quite yet, but it's interesting to see that he is on good enough form to lead the way.
Quite amazing. He left his rifle behind. In fact, he didn't. He took it to his hotel room, did some dry firing, but what I mean, he wasn't able to do any shooting with pulse over the last 5 or 6 days, and straight back in to be leading the pack now. I see, Patrick, 15 out of the 30 have shot the perfect 0, hit all the targets in the first prone.
Now, this situation brings back memories of the World Championships in 2001, where Bjørndalen and Poré had a real duel. I think it was in the mass start. We'll check that. Either that or the pursuit. And Bjørndalen taking a fall with about 600 metres to go.
Yeah, that was so surprising. You would never expect Bjørndalen to trip over like that, especially when it was so important. And it did cost him the title in that race. And here we are again 4 years later. And Bjorndalen and Poirier 1 and 2 again. Just looking at Mickey Grice, he did have the fastest time overall in the pursuit race 2 days ago. When you take his 1 minute 56 start time behind, he pulled back almost a minute and 7 seconds.
Yeah, he's really hit the big time this season, and the Germans needed that with Peter Sendel going out in the first half of the first phase of the season, and of course Frank Luck, who's now working for us and has given up racing and doesn't look too dissatisfied with the fact that he doesn't have to go out training every day. Enjoying his life now, Frank Luck, as a reporter for Eurosport.
Well, interesting what Frank was saying. I would have thought Frank Luck would have loved this race because he was the ultimate relay man, and this is not unsimilar to the relay, but Frank Luck was saying there earlier that he didn't particularly like this race. It wasn't for him, but it's certainly Poirier's favourite race.
Contrast in styles between Poirier, who flows over the style. Mickey Grice, a shorter action, stays very low with the hips on the uphill sections. Must be very hard work on the thighs, but he's strong, he's fit, and he's got that sort of rope holding fitness which comes from climbing really severe hills.
Yeah, a lot of strength in Mickey Grice. Huge amount of power. Snow's beginning to fall quite heavily now. Shouldn't really affect certainly the first 5. There's going to be no advantage or disadvantage for Ole Einar Bjorndalen out front.
He's pulling away from Poirier at the moment, extending his lead. He did have 4.2 seconds. He's built that to 13.7. Mike, it's a little ironic. He seems to be back on form. I don't think there's any doubt that Bjorndalen has had a couple of weeks on a low, and if the Norwegians hadn't selected their runners for the 15-kilometre at the Nordic Championships 4 weeks ago, he wouldn't have been in the team.
No, he wouldn't have, and I think Christian Schjeldahl certainly would have been, who this morning came in the top 7, I think it was.
Well, a big topic of talk from Oberstdorf in the World Championships, which I'm sure you've been following with David Goldstrom, is not just that Vito has taken the win, which will get tongues waggling again, but that the Germans are in real trouble all out of... Do you think that was form, or do you think that was purely a technical mistake?
It did look in their race as if their skis were slipping in the classic form, and the classic technique where you have wax that propels you forward. That was a factor, but they still didn't catch any time in the skating. Sommerfeld and Teichmann, they really have lost form. I think they were too good in December, to be honest, the German team.
Absolutely.
Too focused, too early.
Well, Sven Fischer, we thought, might have fallen into that category, starting his season in the biathlon with 2 wins, but he's kept it going, still in second place in the standings. But here we go, second shoot in the men's mass start, only the second mass start of the season. Bjorndalen look very competent now. That was nearly a big mistake, almost disqualification. Second shoot, you have to take the lowest number available as far as the lane goes, and Bjorndalen needed a little bit of reminding there, but he's okay. Wasted maybe a fraction of time, but has it unsettled his mind?
You can see the angle of snow's falling. It's dropping from high left to low right. That's the wind blowing it over, and that's the same effect on the bullet.
Needs this last one. Excellent start from Bjorndalen, 10 out of 10 in the prone, and Poirier now under a little bit of pressure. His shooting hasn't been quite as good in the last couple of weeks, but no mistakes so far. Mickey Grice gets the first 2 down, no problem at all. Vincent de Frey, you'd expect to clear them, and he will have to join his teammate Poirier with a clear shoot. 20 out of 20 from the first 4 athletes. Will Fischer do the same? This is the best prone shoot we've seen all season.
Oh, unbelievable. Bjorndalen to come back from a short layoff.
What about the Chinese, Mike? Oh, what a shame. Mentioned it too soon. Zhang was right up into the top 6 positions, but he's going to miss his first shot. A penalty loop for him of 150 metres. Robert of France goes clear again. Gross, Mike, good to see him in the leading position, so I wonder whether he'll threaten at the end of the day.
Gross, he hasn't quite got his ski form.
Watch out for Frode Andersen. He could come through, having gone clear on that second prone.
Frode Andersen is skiing the fastest out there, and to go clear there on the second prone, that's good news for him.
Bjorndalen, Poirier, de Frey, Grice, Fischer, the top 5 positions, 33 seconds between them. Not a bad lead that Bjorndalen has built up, Mike. 14 seconds. He actually lost 5 seconds or so with the shoot.
He did. Especially when he nearly took the wrong shooting lane. Maybe his layoff of a week or so, he was forgetting the disciplines and the fact you have to fill up from the far right, lane number 1. Good news for Bjorn Dahlin, I think, when this race has been instated as an Olympic event now, so in Torino next year, this will have an Olympic gold medal attached to it.
So you think he'll be going for 5? Remember, he got 4 in Salt Lake City.
Is that possible, I wonder?
I don't think so. I think you'd get very good odds on it if you were prepared to lay down a bet. So just a quick view of Bjorn Dahlin and Poiré coming in. They're back out on the track, leading 1 and 2 at the moment. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back, though, in plenty of time for the first standing shoot. Welcome back to Poklúka. The first 2 shoots completed now in the men's mass start, and an interesting situation developing. Bjorn Dahlin and Poiré, the top 2 men in the world for the last 5 years, are 1 and 2. There's Bjorn Dahlin at the front. He's got a 40-metre gap or so over Raphael Poiré, who looked as though he was closing down earlier on, but I think he's starting to lose time on this big climb again. That could be crucial when it comes to the first standing shoot, because Bjorn Dahlin has got to make sure he's recovered by the time he gets back into the range.
Indeed, the downhill allows, I think, about a 40-second recovery, if you can call it recovery, because you have to work on the corners, which is stressing the muscles on your legs, but you do get a chance to get your breathing down just a little bit.
14 seconds between them after the second shoot, and the clock ticking away. It looks as though it's going to be marginally over that time difference. 15, 16, it will stop shortly. Poiré has lost another massive ground, 19.8 now. Now Bjorn Dahlin, if he can build another 5 seconds, can afford a miss on the first standing shoot. Not what's going through his mind, but it's what's being that's the result of the hard skiing he's putting in.
Absolutely. What an intensity Oleana Bjorn Dahlin. He comes back and he hits this hard. I think sometimes a change of scenery, where he's gone off to do other challenges, and then you do come back with a slightly fresher mind. All these athletes now have raced this is their 24th race since the beginning of December.
Another good race for Andy Bernbacher of Germany in 6th position. Messertich of Austria, the best of his team, in 7th. Frode Andersen still in contention, 55 seconds down, skiing with Zhang of China now, who really has improved no end over the last 3 weeks, and largely that's due to the fact that he started to shoot well. Here we see Grice and Vincent Defrain skiing one behind the other. Defrain looking very smooth on the skis. No guesses required to predict who he learned his style off, but it's been effective, and he's having a good couple of weeks. I wonder whether his form will stay up for the next 2 weeks.
I think it will. Defrain is having his best season ever, and yet to be ranked 9th in the world at this point, I can just foresee that going higher and higher. Still looking at the shooting, it's one of the best shooting days. Still 13 out of the best 30 in the world have hit all 10 out of 10 so far. That's good shooting. It does seem to change, though, when they come in for the stand. That's when they pick up more penalties.
Poiré losing another couple of seconds on the descent, Mike. In fact, I think most of that will have gone on the last bit of hill. There's a bit of a blind summit at the top of that climb. They go past the checkpoint, but they've still got another 150 metres of climbing to go. So I don't think the ski speed, there's a significant difference between the Norwegian and the Frenchman. Mickey Grice locked together in battle with Vincent Defrain, and Fischer, Bernbacher, Messertich, Perner all having a great battle for fighting it out for 5th, 6th and 7th, and Frode Andersen isn't too far off that group as well. There he is, just tucked. In fact, that's not. Is that Andersen?
That's Ekhoff.
That looks like Ekhoff.
But there's Frode just ahead at the back of the first group, or the second group, I should say. Frode is actually skiing faster than Bjorn Dahlin. He's taken the second off Bjorn Dahlin's ski time from the range.
Yeah, but you wouldn't put too much money on Frode out shooting Bjorn Dahlin come the standing shoot, and that's going to be very interesting to see whether Bjorn Dahlin has retained the form that he showed us last time out. He really had a great run of results in Ruhpolding and Antholz. He won, in fact, he won 6 races out of 6 if you include the relay in Ruhpolding as well. And if he can maintain that form, he certainly still has a chance of taking the overall World Cup this year. 89 points behind at the moment.
Look at his lower stomach, absolutely pumping the air into his lungs.
Another excellent shoot. We saw this sort of a performance in Antolz and Poklюка. Well, what an astonishing run of shooting Oliana Bjorndalen has had. And Poiré knows that he cannot afford a mistake now. He hasn't made one. 15 each for the two leaders. And Mickey Grice and De France suddenly feel the pressure from the two great men. Interesting order of targets from Vincent De France.
I think he's trying to make less the pressure on the last shot.
Oh, Mickey Grice suddenly misses one. It's been going brilliantly for the young German so far, but Grice has got a penalty loop to do. De France will move up into the third position on his own, but he'll be very aware of the names chasing him, and in particular, Sven Fischer.
Well, look at Bernbacher and Zhang, the youngest, the least experienced, and they're missing so many. That's 3 for Bernbacher, 4 for Zhang.
Fred Anderson, Mike, just one penalty, so 150 metres, he can gain back 75 of those, no problem at all. Rico Gross, 5 out of 5 yet again, but Gross's ski form, Mike, really doesn't convince you that he's going to be able to defend his world title that he got in the pursuit last year.
He has to do an awful lot of work, or really plan the next 12 days so well to get himself. He needs to find, what, 45 seconds in the half-hour race to challenge for medals at the World Championships.
So that's the situation up the front. Bjorndalen leading, as he has done ever since the first shoot. 23.5 seconds clear of Raphael Poiré. He could extend that to 30. Now the big question, Mike, Bjorndalen's got enough of a margin to be able to afford one miss. He should still come out with Poiré if Poiré goes clear. Can he do enough skiing over the next 5 kilometres or so to earn himself 2 misses?
I think that's what Bjorndalen is going for, the safety margin. I don't think he can. If Poiré gets the 5 out of 5 in the standing and Oliana misses 1, the race is on. Unless Bjorndalen can come up with and extend his lead by 45 seconds, I don't think he's going to do that.
And the next question, should Bjorndalen miss targets, how much time can he give away to Poiré on the last loop?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. With his record of fading in the closing stages?
10. Poiré generally lately has been improving his last 2 loops, but I would say 10 seconds.
So there you have confirmation. 3 shoots completed of the 4. Bjorndalen, Poiré, De France. The top 3 still. The French going brilliantly. Sven Fischer, the best of the Germans. Fred Anderson of Norway down in 10th place now. 3 misses in total. He's only 123 off the leaders. Philipp Schulman having a good run for the Russians. And Halvard Hannebold shooting better than he has done in the last couple of weeks, but still off the pace. Snow thickening as the race goes on, and I don't think it's going to have too much of a detrimental effect on the men's mass start, but the women won't be enjoying this. They know the tracks are going to be considerably slower when it comes to their run a little later on. And also, Mike, the women have already zeroed their rifles, so they've got a much bigger time gap between zeroing and racing.
That's a good point. The coaches are watching the flags right now on the range and passing on any information to the women should they need it. Interesting how there's a 600 metres of flat before coming into the bottom of the steep hill. I think it was requested that the 2 steep climbs, as we normally see, have been taken out, just to try and make this course less harsh. With the amount of races they've been doing lately, they do need a slightly easier course. Well, it's not a big gap, almost the same as last time.
Is Bjorndalen slowing down? 23.5 was our last checkpoint as they came out of the range area for the 3rd and final time. Incidentally, Livgreta Poiré not racing this afternoon for Norway, deciding that she's got to put all their effort into trying to find some form for the World Championships, and if she doesn't achieve that, I don't think we'll see her in Hochfuss, and it's been a very, very poor season for Liv Greta, but I don't have any doubt that she'll be back in the future, unless, of course, she decides that the family takes number 1 priority.
Well, that's the big issue, isn't it? When you're not feeling good about your racing, and you have more things going on in your life, your focus tends to go that way. Well, he's only lost 1 second this time since the range, Poirier.
Now, is that a tactical move from Bjorndalen just to ease down? He knows exactly what the time margin is, and he may have decided to cut the work rate by a couple of percent just to increase his chances of hitting the standing targets. De Frey, 40.1. Mike, he's lost 3 seconds, but he's still got a little bit of a margin over Sven Fischer, who's coming up, and in fact, it looks as though Fischer has been burnt off by Sten Eckhoff, who is absolutely determined to prove to the Norwegians they've made a mistake in not entering him for the sprint race at the World Championships. I wonder how flexible the Norwegians are.
I wonder, I'm sure that if it makes sense if you've got a man on form, and Eckhoff clearly is on form right now, very difficult to ignore him when it's coming to World Championships races. But if you've got a selection policy, generally teams will stick to it. It's stated well in advance, and you need to stick to it. The comparison of the 2 great men.
Poirier, as always, fumbling magazines. He's not had a good season. A few valuable seconds lost here and there, especially with a reloading mechanism.
1 second difference in the first shot.
Well, not a lot between them, Mike. Interesting to see Bjorndalen actually taking less time to prepare for that first shot. Not normally the case, certainly not in the Pro, and he's learnt his lessons. 2 seasons ago, he could hardly hit a prone target. This year is going very well indeed. He's got a 91% hit rate, so that's really where the difference has come.
Indeed. It just brings back memories looking at that footage of Poirier 3 seasons ago, got his first shot. So that's from when you stop moving until the first shot goes, he was getting it down to 11 seconds. They both took 17 and 18 seconds there.
Well, there you see the clock for yourself, 26.7 the margin between them. Bjorndalen can afford a quick penalty loop, but it really will make a race of things, because it looks as though Poirier is getting stronger as the race goes on. Bjorndalen traditionally starts very, very fast indeed and fades, but we did think when we last saw him in action in Antolz that he'd decided to change the tactics and start slower and build. This is going to be a real indication of his form and whether the cross-country experience has been a good one.
Indeed. It does appear as if Poirier's losing his 4 seconds now from the high point to the bottom of the hill. Those 2 checkpoints, it is really 90% of downhill between those 2 checkpoints.
So Bjorndalen coming in, the Norwegian coaching team.
It's the shooting coach, Jor Himli.
And incidentally, Bjorndalen taking things very seriously. He has his own shooting coach and a whole team of advisors, medical support, everything you would expect from an elite athlete. Hasn't missed as yet. Impeccable. Absolutely astonishing how he's done it. He really has turned things around. 20 out of 20 for Ole-Einar Bjorndalen. He's been away for a week, but you would never have known it. He is on the best form we've ever seen. 32-37, he's going to come out, and that must have been a depressing sight for Poirier. He's got to stay clean now and focused. Now, chance for De Frey. Bit of rivalry building up between the 2 Frenchmen. So 1 chance only for Vincent De Frey. Oh, he's thrown it away. Now, surely change of tactics, get them down quickly, get onto the heels of his teammate.
Look at De Frey and his lungs. He's gasping for air in between each shot. Oh,
I think that writing was on the wall there, Mike. He was in a desperate hurry, and now De Frey has potentially thrown away that 3rd position, because Eckhoff and Sherazov, who's come through yet again, Grice is there, Fischer is there. He'll be the fastest finisher, maybe bar Frode Andersen. If any of these 6-5 go clear, then I think De Frank could be in trouble. Eckhoff has got one loop to do. Sherazov still clear. Mickey Grice has missed one. Fischer taking his time, and 2 out of 2 so far. Sherazov has missed one, so he's not going to be able to take third. Fischer, one more to go.
Taking his time.
Oh, it's going to be painful. He's gone down, and Fischer will make a chase for third position. De Frank versus Fischer. I think De Frank could just come out in front. He's completing his penalty loops as we speak.
Well, this is the straight into the range, and Alexander Wolf
has lapped now.
Still to go in for a shoot.
Now, under normal World Cup rules, Mike, he should withdraw from the competition, or is that different on the last loop? I think it's different once they completed the shooting.
Well, it's just that little bit. There's about 900 metres which overlap there, so
okay.
It's not technically. It is a separate loop. Yeah.
Okay, good. Got that one clear. And incidentally, as we look at the top 6 now, 55 seconds. Bjorn Dahlen is pretty safe, unless he takes an absolute perler of a fall on the way down the final hill. But surely he's not going to do that. 128 behind for Fischer. De Frank 129. Those two. That's going to be interesting. Can you see De Frank holding on to the back of the German?
It's going to be a tough push, but I think the big threat coming from Eckhoff. He's only 2 seconds off Fischer. Eckhoff will be gunning for third.
And Fischer, one of only 3 men so far to have gone clear with all 20 shots. The other one, you won't need too many guesses to get it right. Rico Gross clear yet again, keeps his 92-91% hit rate for the season. Further down the order, Ryschenkov going well for Belarus. He's got 5 down out of 5. Simon of Switzerland, Mike, not quite such a good day for him.
No, sadly for Simon. He does like the tracks here, he was saying, but it's what matters on the range here when you've got the 30 best biathletes in the world around you. Now,
we've focused obviously on Bjorn Dahlen, Poiré and Fischer at the front, and incidentally, if you go back to the World Championships on these tracks in 2001, Bjorn Dahlen second, Poiré first, Fischer third. So it's the same 3 men in the podium positions. We'll just run down the order of some of the lower positions, because I know many of you interested in other athletes from Belarus and Slovakia, Slovenia. So just looking down, Mike, anyone who you pick out, Schulman, I think, of Russia deserves a mention in 8th position. And Mickey Grice of Germany has dropped to 10th.
And great to see Mesetic from Austria, you mentioned earlier. He's moving up from 18th to 13th and shooting well. Good news for the Austrians.
Wolfgang Rottmann down in 18th. The Chinese, we've been on the trail of Shengyi Zhang of China. 6 misses today. It all went horribly wrong on the first standing shoot, where he missed 4, and he finds himself nearly 3 minutes off the lead. Down in 20th, where at one stage he was looking for a possible top 3 finish.
Well, Norwegian coaching staff shouting 55 ahead of Poiré, so that's 55 ahead of Raphael. And Bjorn Dahlen could actually back off, take it a little bit easier now, because it's only the long downhill, then fairly flat into the finish line, but this man doesn't slow down.
Well, I'm sure you're all very aware of the World Cup standings, but just to let you know, 642 points for Poiré at the moment. Fischer, 626. So he's some way behind. What is that? 16 points behind. Not impossible for Fischer to close the gap. Bjorn Dahlen, 553. So he's 90 points or so off the lead. But we've still got 7 races to go. 8 races, in fact, if you include this one. He's going to pick up 50 here. So Bjorn Dahlen still has a very good chance. And when you take his 3 worst results away at the end of the season, he will lose absolutely no points. Whereas Poiré at the moment will lose 10. Fischer will lose 29. So effectively Bjorn Dahlen right on the heels of Sven Fischer at the moment. Eckhoff, as you predicted, Mike, was going to be a threat to 3rd position, and he's gone ahead of Fischer, and he's storming away. Excellent attack from Stian Eckhoff, proving that he is in the best form of the season, but it's all come just a little bit too late. I think we may see a change in the Norwegian selection. You cannot leave a man like this out,
especially when Kjelland is really losing form. Kjelland is down in 22nd today, ranked 10th in the world. But this move here from De Frank, I think it might just be a little bit early. Sven will always fight to the line, and I'm not sure it's going to stay France ahead of Germany for 4th position.
Well, Defran needs to hold a 4-5 second lead over Fischer, break that slipstream that Fischer would take advantage of on the downhill if he was close enough, but he doesn't look quite the same as he did in San Sicario a couple of weeks ago. 1:28 the difference between Fischer and Bjorndal, and there's no way that's going to close, but he's now got 4 seconds to catch up on Vincent Defran, who is having an astonishing run of results. Great to see Sherazov back in action. Nikolai Kruglov has stolen a lot of the limelight from Russia recently with his good performances, but Sherazov is someone we have to watch out for in the future. So often he fades in the last kilometre. We'll see if that happens today. He's in a good position, got top 6 at the moment.
Schulman as well, Patrick, from 26, ranked 26. Of course, they all started together. Schulman is back up to 7th position. First time we've really seen him making big moves this year. But Poirier, isn't it? It's interesting. We know he's not quite on his peak form, but he's still able to come second from the best in the world on this Masс-starт. Well, they're not across the line yet, but doesn't look like it's going to change.
Still got over 20 seconds clear of Stiernekov, and I think Rafael just starting to wind it down now. He's happy with the way things have gone, but you have to respect Bjorndalen's performances. But I wonder what sort of the mental damage this will do to Poirier, knowing that Bjorndalen really, not only is he skiing brilliantly, he's shooting impeccably. Look at that score. Another clear shoot in the long race for Ole Einar Bjorndalen. He did it in Antots in the pursuit. He did it in Antots in the individual. In fact, on that week of racing, he only missed 1 out of 50 targets. Today, he's at 20 out of 20 and run away with it.
What a man, this man. He made it look easy. This sport in no way is easy. To balance your body and try and control your breathing, your heartbeat's at 170 when you're trying to hit small targets, about the size of a golf ball, from the halfway line of a football pitch to the goal. These targets are very small.
So Bjorndalen with a nice little smile on his face. He didn't have that in Oberstdorf at the Nordic World Championships. I think he's delighted to be back, and I wonder whether he'll reconsider his plans to race in the cross-country events in the Olympics next year. I think he'll probably stick to that. That was going to be his swan song as far as cross-country skiing was concerned. Then he was just going to focus on biathlon again.
I think Ole Einar Bjorndalen needs that change. If you're doing this biathlon World Cup tour all the time, it's hard. It's good to get away from it sometimes, and it does his mind and body a lot of good.
Well, here's a man who needs a bit of a mental boost. He's got second today, 46 points in all, applauding Ole Einar Bjorndalen. He knows that really was an outstanding performance. He's also applauding the crowd who've come in good numbers today to support here. The Wednesday, Thursday, Friday race is a little bit quiet, but they made their way up the hill from Bled, and we've got a good crowd, good participation as well. Stiernekov, great run from the youngster from Norway, 3rd place on the day, out skiing Defran and Fischer over that last loop, and putting a fairly sizable margin over those two.
He certainly has. That's a great turn of speed from Ekhoff. Sherazov, 6th, respectful. And that's Schulman coming in, I think. Yep, 7th. Gross, he couldn't have missed any targets.
Good recovery from Rico Gross, not skiing at his best, but consistent as ever with the rifle, no problem at all. Fischer was clear, Gross was clear. We know all about Ole Einar Bjorndalen. No one else can have gone clear. The worst shooting coming from Zhenyi Zhang of China, 6 misses in all, and Frode Andersen 5 misses, but he's still got himself up into 9th position. Grice 10, Halvard Hannevold, that's slightly better. Not been a brilliant week for Hannevold, and I think he'll be a little concerned about his form. He's been selected for the Norwegian individual race at the World Championships, won't get a start in the sprint, and therefore won't get a start in the pursuit. Bernbacher, Mike, slipping down to 16th. Maybe the recent results have been a bit too much of a strain.
Well, he shot 15 out of 15 in the 2 prones and the final stand, but he missed 3 on the first stand. It could have been so different.
129 behind would have put him into the top 6, so he's still skiing very well indeed. There you see Zhang, he's made up 1 place on the last loop, 247 down with 6 misses in all. So that's 600, what is it, 800 metres, 900 metres in fact, he's skied extra, and he's still under 3 minutes behind, so a pretty impressive ski from him.
Always incredible skiing. Julien Robert from France, he's another one, another great shot, but missed 2 today, 0-0-2-0. Rashenkov, he's picking up on his ski form, but his problem has been on the range, although only missing 3 today.
Egil Hieland not looking happy at all. It all went wrong early on for Hieland. 2 misses in the first prone and never really recovered. Missed 1 more shot after that, but 3:12 behind. Shooting's not as good as it was at the beginning of the season, and his skiing is certainly not as quick. So Egil Hieland has some trouble. Norwegian selection's going to be interesting. It will be a tough call to get into their relay team. The 2 Austrians, Suman and Gredler, 25 and 26, only a couple of places behind Perna, fading in the closing stages. The best of the Austrians, I think, must have been Mesetic or Rotman, just outside the top 10.
Indeed, yeah. Mesetic 14, Rotman 15th. That's pretty good for them, they'll be happy.
Simon of Switzerland, 28th. Simon from Belarus not racing today, decided to prepare for the World Championships, having shown great form in San Sicario. So halfway through the day's racing here in Pokljuka, 1 more race in this meeting to go, and then most of the teams will head home for a little bit of R&R, I would suggest, and then just start focusing on the World Championships. And then, of course, once that's over, we've got 1 more round of the World Cup to do. We head to Khanty-Mansiysk, where the World Championships were held in 2003. That could be a really interesting finale to the season. But today, well, the king is back. Bjorn Dahlen returned from Oberstdorf, and he's stamped his authority on the tour yet again. 40:12 the time. Raphael Perret 1 minute and 5 behind, despite the fact that he only missed 1 target, so 40 seconds or so slower ski-wise. And Stian Eckhoff, an outstanding finish.
When you consider he missed 2 targets, Eckhoff really is on dynamic form on the skis.
So is Frode Andersen, but we always knew that. 5 misses today for Andersen, some of them coming early on. 2-0-1-2 the score for Frode. Julien Robert just behind Shenyi Zhang. Yeah, you see him, those two had a good fight on the last loop, but Zhang proving too strong, but he couldn't catch Lionel Grebeau. Now that's interesting. The French have brought a couple of new names into this round of the World Cup, Mike, and they've impressed.
They have indeed, and on the women's tour as well.
So plenty of support for the Slovenians, but unfortunately none of them qualifying for the Masс-start event. The top 30 in the World Cup entitled to race. In the World Championships it will be slightly different. All the medalists from the previous races, the sprint, the individual and the pursuit, have the right to start. Then it's the next best 15 in the World Cup standings, and then it's on the best performances in the World Championships. So they get points from those World Championship races, and they'll fill the remainder spaces with those who are on form. Is that the right format?
I believe they have been discussing this, because if an athlete's coming up onto form, though, hasn't scored a lot of points, you must give them a chance for a World Championship Masс-start. And so they are looking at people who are coming through and on form during all the previous races.
Well, certainly Stian Eckhoff will get a start. Raphael Perret likewise. Good prone shooting from Perret today, 0-0, but once again throwing 1 wide on his last standing shoot. He's enjoyed his racing here. He's had a lot of success on these tracks in Pokljuka, and the Frenchman, though, outclassed by this man, Ole Einar Bjorn Dahlen. A really top-class performance, even by his standards.
Just thinking, Patrick, it must be his 51st or maybe 52nd World Cup victory.
That's number 51. Number 51, chasing Ingemar Stenmark now, who I think had 86 World Cup wins. That's an ambitious thing, and even Bjorn Dahlen says, I'm not even going to think about that. He's overtaken the Italian skier, Albarello, and Bjorn Dahlen notching up yet another win to close the gap on the lead of the women's Masс-start, the last race here in Pokljuka. Well, there were the 3 medalists, plus the remainder of those who pick up checks for their performances today. €9,000 going to this man. He's certainly not short of a bob or two after this season. Excellent run of form he's having. That's, in fact, 6 races in succession that he's entered, he's won.
Quite amazing. Sorry, Poiré, Ole Einar Bjørndalen, it's phenomenal. There's never been a biathlete like him.
Good to see Stiernekov. He really has dug deep this week, and he's produced some very, very good runs. 4th, 8th, and now 3rd today. Only his 2nd podium finish of the season. Of course, he won the sprint back in Östersund. That's when he got his first ever World Cup win.
Just noticing Bjørndalen, he's left his ski boot on his ski. That'll be a new trend for the podium winners. Well, I'm sure we'll see boots going on there attached to their skis in the future.
I think you should only be allowed to do it if you're prepared to walk around barefooted. Yeah, the race skis, very precious indeed. They're whipped off to the technician's cabin, and they're given a pair of the sponsors with a few race markings on, just to advertise the brand. But when you get a good pair of race skis, you look after them like gold dust, because they don't come along very often. Bjørndalen's got a fair few houses around Europe, and I should think he needs most of them for his trophies. He certainly spends a lot of his time in the north of Italy, near Antolz, does most of his summer training there, living with his girlfriend, Natalie Santa, and he'll be delighted with the way things have gone today, and I think that will silence a few of the critics up in Norway who weren't too happy with his performances at the World Championships. Well, that's Pokluk, who've been out on the tracks this morning.
Liebe Zuschauer beim Biathlon-Weltcup am 5. März
saying welcome to the last of the World Cups here in Poklüka before they head to Hogfilsen, and just commenting on the fact that we really have winter here at last with the snow coming down.
Frank's looking at the snow.